Okay, people, I'm back. I hope is this right? Is this set up right? I think it's set up right. All right. This week I'm covering book 3, The Dragon Reborn, in the much hyped Wheel of Time saga from Robert Jordan. Um I initially got this book because of the Amazon Prime show, right? I have heard about the series over the years. Then they made a show, and I'm like, I got to catch up on this before the show comes out. It'll be a good way to, compare them. And then I got at a used bookstore 2 box sets, so 6 of the books, but they started at 4. So I had to buy sort of full price the first 3. So these look this way. And when you see the other ones, they'll look like the ones from the, 80s. Or I don't know when they were printed. 90s. Whenever. This isn't my big series. This is not my go-to. It's not my jam. Not fantasy. I love fantasy, but the Wheel of Time in particular. And I've done 2 others of these, right? And I haven't loved them. Let's just be honest. And so the question sort of comes up, why? Why are we doing this? If we don't like the books, why? And I'm like, I think that's the point of some of the point of this channel. It's I like to read, right? So in that, it sometimes doesn't matter. But also, when you look at other YouTube channels, or at least when I do, I don't get, let's say, there's not a lot of negative. I think people get a sense that you're insulting the author or however you want to take it. But I feel like for me as a reader, this is, what is this? There's 14 of these books. There's 14 of these Wheel of Time books, right? I think if you're not giving an honest assessment of what's happening here, somebody could waste time, could waste money, could waste their effort, right? A normal person, not a YouTuber. If when I was just normal, I just read the things that I liked. I didn't read so much of stuff that I don't like. Right? But then occasionally you'd spend money and get something that sucked in your mind. Right? Well, then you go to YouTube. Same with movies. You tell me about the movie before I go watch it. And well, this movie's great. And then you watch it and it sucks. And you're like, well, I can't go to him for great movies because he thinks different than me. This sort of thing, right? So I think in that regard, this can be useful. And also, let's be honest, I read a book, I like to blab about the book. I like to talk about it. So you all have to listen to it. That's just the way we're going to do it. All right, so between the two, it's sort of why we're all here. Because I think if I didn't have the YouTube channel, I might have still got the box set there, right? I might not have started at the beginning. Spoiler alert, though. I'm going to go through the book, through the points. So the end will be spoiled. But, like, if you want to cut through this a little bit, maybe I should have put it in the other 2, but I didn't. I think at that time I wasn't there yet. I've started now book 4. So far, I'm about halfway through. You could not read the first 3 of this series. You could just start at 4 and you'd be fine. You wouldn't miss anything. And I'm being honest. I suppose if you read, if you just loved it, no. If you didn't, I think if you didn't grow up with it, right? If this were the first fantasy you've ever been exposed to, maybe just holds a special place in your heart. I don't know. But if you, other than that, there's better ways to spend your time. You don't have to read this book. I read it, so you don't have to. First off, the name. What a waste of a good name. The Dragon Reborn. It should have been cooler than it is. Okay. This book picks up ish where the last one left off. So we don't get too much of an introduction to the characters. He can't help himself at times. He'll go back and recover things he's already covered. That part doesn't bug me too much, honestly. The world itself doesn't bug me too much. I actually like it. I'm interested in a lot of things that are happening around me. I'm not taken to those things. I'm not shown those things. We don't talk about those things. But they're there and I'm interested. Sort of. I think it's what makes this book more painful than normal bad books, let's say. Because there's good there, and it's just like, well, I'll let you smell the cake, but you don't get to eat it. Eat your green beans. I'm like, these green beans are a lot worse once I smelt the cake. Now I'm not into green beans at all. But if it was just green beans, I'm like, yeah, it was all right. Maybe a little salty. It's one of these situations. In any case, we find Perrin, Moraine, Lane, the Warder, and the Ogier. I can't think of his name now. I can see his face. Well, the face that I picture. Did he say Ogier so much? So that's the name I use in my head. They're all in the camp of the Dragon Reborn. He's somewhere in the wilderness or something to this effect. And they're trying to what? Moraine's trying to sort of orchestrate his, I guess, coming out party. There's a big to-do. He's already drawing a crowd. They're already sort of hailing him as this great thing. And I guess other people don't like that. It's a whole upending the world type of situation. In any case, he's trying to isolate himself because he can't really control his powers. There might be random fireballs, earthquakes, all kind of craziness around him. At any point, it just like sparks off of him. Anything can happen. And other than his friends, everyone else treats him like some sort of demigod. So if he cracked a mountain in half, they're like, I guess that's just what has to happen. He's the Dragon Reborn. I don't know. They're just going to go along for the ride, right? But he argues with Moraine, the Aes Sedai, for no real reason. There's no real reason in the first books. There's less of a reason now than in the first books. Okay, because the way he wants to feed the mythology, you're supposed to be the rural people, and they've grown up with stories of the boogeyman being anyone who can use the one power. Right, so they see them as witches, or however you want to do this. I'm like, that I understand. But when I meet the Wicked Witch of the West, right? How many times does she have to save my life before I'm like, maybe she's not the Wicked Witch that I thought she was? Right? 4, 5? Because Moraine saves these fools like 9 times. And they're still like, I'm going to backsass her. So with that in your head, if you've read the other two, or if you read the other two, it's worse. But if you only read this one, the author gives you no reason for this animosity. No real reason. I could see when in reading what he wants maybe a streak of independence from his character. This kind of, I don't know, feeling. But there's nothing in the words that gives me that. At least not in the way that I enjoy, right? So, you could just be rebellious, a rebellious teen. You can be a rebel, right? You can be a rebel without a cause. Hold on, where was I? Rebel without a cause, right? There are various forms of rebellion. And in a story, they'd each play a different kind of a way. It'd be cool. It'd be annoying. Rand, in the way it's presented, is the annoying kind, like a child. Like, why am I listening to this baby complain? She hasn't done anything to him. Everybody's just trying to help him, and just they're crying about it. Not good. I don't like it, and it doesn't help that he's supposed to be our hero, right? Who wants to follow a big baby hero, right? No. Um, this is recurring throughout. It recurred throughout the other two as well. Perrin has a dream. I'm not going to explain the dream because it doesn't matter. And I'm not in the sense like I don't care about it. I care about everything in the book. The book doesn't care about it, right? You can have sort of prophetic dreams in a story of this type. It can be very what's the word? Um, what is it? Symbolic. It can be out there where I'm reading it and things don't make sense, like a shooting star through the eye of an eagle, the glistening fish, this kind of weird imagery that doesn't make sense. I'm like, yeah, it's a dream. It doesn't have to make sense. I, as the reader, will assume that dream will turn into something in the story. I'm like, oh, look, the guy with the armors, it's glistening because he came out of the water. He's the fish. He's this kind of thing. We don't do that. Also, it's very, once you realize it doesn't do this, which you realize fairly quickly. Again, even if this is the only book you read of it, I get it about halfway through that none of this is going to matter. But I've already read two of these, so I already know the dreams don't end up being anything. Symbolic. Once that's the case, once I know it's a dream, once I know none of these actions, because it'll be a dream sequence of the kid's life, of some version of a life, this kind of thing. But that's not my Perrin. Even if you believe that it's some other reality, some other woven reality, some other version of the same Perrin, it doesn't matter. My Perrin's this one. And that's a dream for him. That's not his friend, such and whatever the dream ends up being. So then when I read it, it's just long. It's just longer than it needs to be. I already know it doesn't matter. I'm already bored. Right? Get dream sequences you don't like. And again, there's interactions with evil people in the dreams, but they're ancillary. They're on the side. They weren't the point. If they were the point, then we spent a lot of time not talking about the point in the dream. Again, we loop around to the same problem. Oh, a further annoyance. Within this dream, it's not just here. It feels like, okay, our main characters, Matt, Perrin, Rand, Egwene, Naive? I think that's how you say it. The people from Emond's Field, the country folk. I feel like we get the story through them a lot because we're new to the situation as well. And we don't have an overarching narrator in that sense. It comes through them a lot, right? So we naturally feel this affinity towards them. Everyone else in here treats them like kids. Mind you, they act like kids, so that's fine. But for me, the part that annoys me, the reader, is everyone has knowledge I don't have access to. Right? And in the dream, the evil guy will talk to him. I'm like, how does it do it? He talks in a sense like they saw a movie I didn't, right? So I'm like, did I miss the first? Is this a sequel to the movie? I hadn't seen the first one, bro. I'll pause the movie. I'll go watch the first one. It's not a big deal. They just keep talking like that, though. Like, there's a whole movie you didn't see. And again, our characters inside are like, just sort of tell me, and I'm like, yeah, just tell them so I know. And they're like, I'm not telling. I'm just keep talking like you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's not like a mystery. It really is like a movie you haven't seen. It's conversations. We're finishing conversations we didn't start. And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? It's just stupid. Not just the guy in the dream, Moraine, when they go to anyone older, more in power. It's like how he gets across power. It's just knowledge they know that you don't. But an annoyance. It's how it reads. Very annoying. Also, a lot of the stuff ends up more interesting again than what you're dealing with. Luz Theron Kinslayer fought the Dark One in some other, Age of the Heroes or whatever. I'm like, the whole age sounds more interesting than everything I'm dealing with. If book one would have started there, then I feel like I'd be more in it, maybe? I don't know. I can just deal with what I'm dealing with. So, of course, rather than deal with his problems, your boy Rand just YOLOs out. He leaves a note, says, I got to do this on my own, and he just runs off. And you're like, well, that's not too much of a problem. I'm like, normally it wouldn't be. Except now he's the Dragon Reborn, so he has, like, top tier power levels, right? Like, over 9,000? And there doesn't seem to be a limit. I'm pretty sure if he wanted to, if he concentrated, he could fly. He can throw fireballs. He can make earthquakes. And the Dark One's just, rolling with him in dream form. Sending sort of apparitions that he has to fight. Sends evil people he has to fight. But we don't cover a lot of the fighting, right? It's sort of quick. We cover more the other people. Is that good or bad? I'm like, I think it's all right. Honestly, I think that part's all right. He YOLOs out, and everyone then starts to follow him. Everyone's been having dreams. A further annoyance. Yes, they'll have dreams, right? Now, sometimes it's the Dark One in the dreams, giving them the business. Sometimes they just dream of stuff. So when he leaves, they all discuss their dreams, and it comes up to Tyr. Tyr. It's some kind of a giant rock. They made a fortress inside, and they have some kind of sword in there. And the prophecies that he's going to get the sword. So he's just like, I'm going to go get the sword myself and start settling things. No one knows what he's thinking, but they're like, if we get to Tyr, he should be going there. Let's just go with it. I'm like, all right, I'll just go with it. Along the way, you can follow his trail because he's such a force in the universe, right? Like they say, the wheel weaves as the wheel will. And occasionally people will come up that it has to weave around. And Rand, being the Dragon Reborn, is the biggest one of these, right? Ta'Veren. Well, his friends are Ta'Veren too. So it's not particularly destiny, but it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. That part's unclear. I don't mind that part. I do like it. But as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, because he goes through a town, and he's such a force that, like the White Cloaks, religious order of zealots, will just abandon lifelong oaths and start acting crazy. Because the thing is like in his wake, like a boat, he upsets all the water, so to speak. I think that's the sort of the essence of what's coming across. That it's such a power for change that even him walking through town is going to affect the entire town. We're talking mass marriages. Everyone will just start partying. Everyone acting out of sorts. I'm like, again, that part makes sense. But if he was hanging out, I don't know how long, let's say a week or two in this camp. Why hasn't he upended Moraine? Why hasn't he upended Lan? Lan took an oath to be the sworn protector for Moraine. Why doesn't he upend Lan? Right? Now maybe you could say it's only the weak-minded, but again, it's not written in. And it's not presented in such a way that makes that, I guess, viable. That's what he does a lot. As we go, he has this sort of, oh, this works, and he'll just pluck it out of nothing and insert it into his story. Well, I'm like, yeah, once that's inserted, like, you have to go back and make sure the insert works continually, right? Okay, this is the measuring stick now. Everything measures up so we can keep going forward, right? Well, I'm just going to use the measuring stick forward. And if I measure back, it won't work. But don't measure back. I'm going to measure back. You know, that's what readers do of this type of... You're making a world. You're world building. You're world building. You can't expect me not to go back and remeasure things, right? He does that with a lot of elements in this book. This one more than the others, if I'm being honest. So in the sense, it starts to feel like a rough draft. But not a rough draft in the sense that things are misspelt or, you know, the paragraph needs to be, you know, shaped down a little. But in a rough draft in the story elements. You know, you could re-edit a book, even a Lord of the Rings, let's say. Just reshuffle it. I'm not changing any of the words. I'm just reshuffling. And it's sort of a different story. The feel, the balance, the ebb, the flow. That's what it feels like. If we'd have got another 2 drafts, maybe he'd have felt the inconsistencies and made them consistent. I don't know. But he didn't. We cut to our girls, the 3 girls. Nynaeve, Eleni, the daughter of the Queen Morgase. Sounds cool. And Egwene. And they're traveling with the Aes Sedai named Varen. Aes Sedai being your wizards. They're wizards. Lady wizards. And they're dragging Matt because he's still sick from the dagger. They're dragging him to Tar Valon, where they should have stayed to begin with, but didn't. Okay, so they get to Tar Valon. And he wants Tar Valon. He wants this in a couple of spots. Tar Valon, I think Camlin. He wants this political intrigue to be happening and them to walk into the political intrigue. Why he thinks a bunch of wizards need political intrigue, I have no idea. I guess it's a different type of an element. I guess if you nailed it, it'd work. But if you nail anything, it works. He doesn't nail it, right? He talks around it a bunch, then doesn't go into it, and some other side thing happens, right? So they get there, they get a pretend punishment, but the Amyrlin seat, the head wizard, wizardress, wizard lady, wants them to hunt down Black Ajah. Right? I'm like, I guess this is fine. Makes sense. But we have a clash of issues here, right? On the one hand, you want to sell me that they're, I guess, politically savvy. These are intelligent women, and it's a sort of a vying for power constantly. It makes you sharp in a kind of a way. But then when the ladies ask the head one, what do we do about this how do you say it? Sichan. These are the ones in the book 2 that showed up and started capturing Aes Sedai and using them as weapons. She's like, I don't see them here. It's not a problem. We're going to deal with this first. And I'm like, on the one hand, that semi makes sense, right? where it's stupid. But I've seen in history, in real life, and world leaders make stupid decisions. They sometimes do that, and I would consider her a world leader. If you're ruling a city state in this type of an environment, you're a world leader. Same as if you were ruling Athens or Sparta or whatever. The Duke of Milan, however you want to think it. She's a world leader. And I guess you can make a dumb decision and just move on. But if I'm in lore, you're the Amerlin seat. You have power literally because you have power. You're lady wizards who can, shoot fire out of your hands, make arrows stop in midair. You do all these fantastical things that could upend wars. So everyone's like, y'all get that spot, and we're going to talk in case anything happens. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're not going to tell me what to do. But we'll talk eye to eye. By right of conquest, you're the king or queen or however. Right? You've earned the spot. The royalty of Europe didn't want to talk to Napoleon, but he had an army of 100,000 dudes who could beat their army. So I'm like, I better talk to him. I don't care if he's just some dirty Corsican. He the crap in charge now, so I'm going to talk. That's why you're in power, right? So if you're her, your power is derived from the one power, literally. So I have it. My ladies have it. None of y'all have it. Maybe one man can have it. I'm tracking all the men who have it. And here comes a force of one power users. And they use it in a way that's very much against you, the way you use it. Right? So now they don't roll by your rules. The fact that other people have your weapon, let's say, should be enough to concern you. And it wouldn't just concern, they could take my spot. I'm talking, it would upset the entire social structure that you have. This is bigger than whatever minor problem you're having. I don't care how major the minor problem is, right? They have the one weapon that's brought the balance that we have socially to us. The whole world you know could change. You'd call other world leaders and start, I need to have a conversation. I'd bring ambassadors in. I'm going to talk to you and you're going to send the word out to your people, right? This is a major issue. She plays it off like it's nothing. We don't mention them again in the whole book. We don't mention them again. And I'm like, bro, can't just not mention them. But we do. Again, it's too stupid for someone you, the author, is very much into internal politics. Politics makes you sharp because it's a constant knife fight, right? Inconsistency even in itself. I don't like it. There's a gray man that tries to assassinate the ladies once they're in Tar Valon where it's supposed to be safe. This is a cool idea. I'll give him this, that he makes these cool concepts. Gray man is already dead. He's somehow given up his... Either he sold his soul or gave up his body. Some kind of weird pact in this sense. But then, like a puppet master, you can just control this thing and run it around town and try and kill people with it. So... It's kind of creepy, but kind of cool. And it's not like a zombie where you're like, oh, this flesh is falling off. He functions normally, apparently, but he's already dead. It's kind of a weird concept. The heel mat, which was a touch and go for a second. The heel mat, he wakes up, again, Selene. I don't know how you say this name. Selene? Let's go with Selene. Beautiful lady Selene walks into his room. And again, he does this a lot. where he likes to have, well, one, she's very tall, but not as tall as him. Always the ladies are shorter than the guys. I don't know. That's the thing in his head, I guess. It's not too much of a problem. It's just when it's paired with, he turns into a blubbering idiot. He can't talk. He's an idiot around women. I don't know what to say to a lady. Mate, it's very cheeseball, and not in a good way. Cringe. Very, very cringe. I don't like it. I'm not having fun reading it. Again, because it doesn't make sense. Now, we the reader know instantly when she comes in she's not normal. Just on the way it's sort of said. I'm pretty sure this is the same lady that was hanging out with Rand. But I don't remember off the top of my head. In any case, you already know she's off. She's too pretty the way it's described. It's a magical lady. I don't trust her. So now I'm presented with a character who does not know what I know, which seems to be obvious. And I'm like, is this for a purpose? If there's a purpose, I can't see one. He tries to make this sort of, I don't know how to talk to ladies feel, which is cringe as all get out. But he's in Tarvalon. He understands that. Why wouldn't he just assume she's an Aes Sedai? He doesn't. He doesn't just assume. And he gets a sense that she's something, but he's not sure. He can't figure it out in time. Again, she talks around him like he should know what's happening, like he's seen the first movie. When, like us, he hasn't. So we're annoyed. And then we're trying to figure out, as readers, what does this mean, right? Because if you're not acting appropriate in lore, then am I just to assume you're an idiot? Right? Is Matt just an idiot? Because you shy around girls, jump under the blankets. Tell her to get out. Are you semi-cocky? How you doing? Talk her up. If give me some kind of sense of magical, some kind of sense of purpose, some kind of oddity that's she's casting a spell on him. That just even her beauty does something to him. Give me something to hang my hat on, right? To make him, but she doesn't. He doesn't because he wants to have sort of a conversation between these two. And like always, for no reason, our person is more ready to believe the evil than the good. Dumb. I could see if you just disbelieved everything. If you said the way she spoke, the magic in her voice, the musicality of something that would give me some sense, oh, he's under her spell. Nothing. So it's like, I see an obvious thing. Matt sort of feels it, but doesn't do anything normal about it, just talks. He's an idiot. And I don't think he's trying to get across that Matt's an idiot. I don't think that's the point of this interaction. I'm going in order, essentially, but I'm not covering every point, because minor things happen, and I'm going to be honest, I started not to care. Which is a problem with this book. More than the others. Here's another issue. Like I said, things get just dropped in, and then we move forward with that. Throughout this time, they've been traveling the road, getting in fights. Matt likes to pop things with an arrow. Got great aim. He's a farm boy. I'm like, it makes sense. You're a farmer, you're in the woods, somebody gives you a bow. You're good with a bow. That makes sense. Well, he sees some warders in training, practicing with their wooden swords. They talk one thing or another. He's getting cocky, even though he's not fully healed up. And all of a sudden, he can use the quarterstaff like a kung fu master. Like he's always used this weapon. This is his weapon of choice. And I'm sitting there reading, and I'm like, What is this garbaggio? I'm in the third book. All of them about this long. This man ain't picked up a quarterstaff, a stick, the whole time. This man's been using knives. He might pick up a sword. No, I think he's just mainly been using that bow and arrow, just zinging them out there. Dropping fools. All of a sudden, I'm quarter staff master, just dispensing to young men around my age who've been practicing with trained soldiers for a good, I guess I'm going to say months. Months, because we were introduced to them in the other books. Months. Months of training with young, healthy males. And I'm just mopping the floor with it. Oh, apparently all farmers use a quarterstaff. That's how he plays it off. And I'm like, no, the crap, they don't. No, they don't. A lot of farmers can't fight at all. The crap are you talking about? They can all use a quarterstaff. And no, I'm not talking our farmers in the modern sense. I'm talking in lore. If all farmers are good with a quarterstaff, Emmons Field wouldn't have got roasted. Because there's nothing but farmers in the town. They'd have just started whipping out their quarterstaffs. And we carry this on through the rest of the book. That's what I mean. If you'd have re-looked over it multiple times, you'd have saw, maybe I need to introduce a quarterstaff sooner. Let me write out the part where he uses a bow and insert quarterstaff. That's all you had to do. Doesn't do it. Garbaggio. Matt's given a letter by the ladies. They're working their mission. They're about to head on out to track down the Black Ajah, the evil lady wizards, because they seem to think that's the best idea. I don't blame them. But it's like you have no way to fight them. You've learned no way to fight them. Maybe take some time to train. He needs to take this letter to Queen Morgacy, right? He covers some of the time of the ladies at Tar Valon, which I don't mind, honestly. It just makes me wish I'd have had a reorder on a lot of this. Like, just backtrack it some. Just give me generally, just stop any kind of over-ending, impending doom. Let the adults deal with that. Let the kids learn and train. Right? Let Rand train with a weapon. Let Matt train with his quarterstaff. Let the ladies be training in Tar Valon. Because we get time that duties they would have as novices, cleaning floors, getting treated like crap. We have little training sessions of actually learning the magic. Right? All that is great. I would have loved all that in its place. That would have been enough to carry the story. Then they can be adults with training. Then they can be set into world-saving situations as adults. Instead, in the middle of a race, which is what the story feels like, we're racing, and we stop to show me these things. I'm like, why are we stopping now? We've already been running. We have stuff to do. So now I feel arrested a little. But it's in no way pertinent to the story. It's just there because he wanted to show these things that he was thinking about. Because the moment he's shown them, we find a reason to get back into the rat race. They get to running quickly. So I lose all the training I could have enjoyed as a reader. I also lose the benefits of having trained characters. Now we have to think of some cockamamie reason for them to be able to be as strong as they are. They constantly fail. It's all out of sorts now. You know what I mean? So that's what we have here. The ladies get off a boat. They're trying to find another boat. They're trying to get to Tyr as fast as possible. Some people get there faster than others. We won't talk about it too much. They they meet an ale ale. That's how I'm gonna say it. Ale war is something they call this. They're a group of people. Apparently they're pale. Somehow they live in like a desert that's always hot with no water, but are pale. Make of that what you will. They're basically your freemen if you've watched or read Dune. They're your warrior class. Don't know nothing about society. Even the women are tough. Um, it actually sounds pretty cool, to be honest with you. Apparently, they invaded sort of whatever the lower half of the world is not the wastes, and just jacked everyone up because they could fight like mad. Like 3-1 is not enough odds to stop one of these fools. They just kill you with a spear. Even Aes Sedai, they're taken out, right? But they have this whole long description of it, but tangentially, right? So again, it's like that's a very interesting city off in the distance. Are we going to go there? No, 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 no. Just look at it glimmer. Look at Vegas nightlife from like the air. But we're just going to fly over. We're going to go to a boring spot in Utah. Right? We're not stopping in Nevada. We're not stopping in Vegas. All them glittering lights ain't for you. It's a different story. One you're not going to read. Can I read it though? No. No, you cannot. Um, in their travels, Moraine, Perrin meet up with a Zarine, some girl who's hunting for the horn of Valeri, which they already found in the other book. Didn't tell anybody. The idea of this hunt I always like. I like thinking like a whole town gathers once every 4 years, and all the young people are like, I'm going to go hunt for the horn, and you just trounce off into the world and have an adventure. The idea of that is tremendous to me. It'd be like back in the day when the New World's not explored, and everyone in London is like, I'm just going to go to America and see the New World. You know, go to Africa. These British people were doing this kind of mess. I like the idea of this. But he ends up just using it to get us a lady so that Perrin can be awkward around her because I can't talk to a female. But then we have some kind of a budding romance. I don't think he knows of a way to show romance better than that. Just awkwardness. Trash. Garbaggio. Matt meets up with Thom. I like this character. He's fun. He reminds me of Gandalf in a weird way. He's a gleeman. They just tell stories. They travel around like a bard. He's such a fun character, though. You get a straw. You get. I'll say this: with all the characters, you have a good sense in your brain as to what they look like, how they would act. Weirdly, I don't know why. I do get a sense of these people. Just a weird, dumb story around them. So he meets up with Thom, and he gets him roped into what he wants to do, delivering this letter. Along the way, they save a lady. Now, I think in one of the other books, there was an issue with fireworks caused by Rand and company. I think because of that issue, this lady got ran out of town. Apparently, money was involved. Who knows? In any case, she was getting chased. They saved her, and as a reward, she gives them a large firework. I don't know how big it is. One of the big boys. And Matt's just obsessed with it, right? Constantly keeping it dry. Running off. You know, he's gambling like crazy, but when he gets caught, he makes sure to run off with this thing for, I don't know why. It seems awkward. Now, it makes sense in the end, but It's one of the things, one of the 9, 10 different things that just sort of happen just so the end works. So stupid. And it's not like, well, you're like, do the things from the other books tie in? Not really. This firework, that's a tangential connection, right? It's yes, there's a thread there, but it's a single thread. It's not anything major. It's not like in the last book we left Dom here and now I come back and he's the mayor, right? There's nothing built like that. They're just almost referenced, like what did we say? What are the celebrities make an appearance? God, what's that word? Cameos. They're cameos of the other books. Why would you have a whole other book just to cameo stuff from it? Just minor little nuggets. Nothing built. You're not on the shoulders of any giants here. None of the book 1 and 2 didn't really matter. This book doesn't really matter. He gets to Camlin. He finds the queen. He hands the note up. And I feel like we do a disservice to Queen Morgase here. In the 2 books, she's built like a pretty big deal. We don't get a lot of... There's the Amerlin seat. There's Queen Morgase. And then maybe one other king. I don't remember his name. We don't get a lot of kings, queens, people in charge. Now, again, it's just a city-state. But again, in this world, that's a power. She has a bit of an army. I would have liked for her to maintain that weight that she had, the power that she had. But when we get here, she's turned from Queen Morgase, this force, in a bunch of political forces that are at play in their, what do they call it? Game of Houses. He was this close to calling it Game of Thrones. Crying shame. He wants the same thing. He wants political intrigue all in this town. But it's not there. So from the most astute person in the game of houses to just a girl in love. That's what we end up with. She's just in love with this guy. Now, I get you could say that he's like magically inclined and messing with her head, but I'm like, I swear to you, aliens could show up. Certain politicians would make the right move. Like, it doesn't faze some of these people. And again, either everyone's phased or no one is, right? So, you're saying, I guess, why weren't the people affected, Lan, Moraine, why weren't they affected by being in the presence of Rand? But when he's going through normal town, all of those people are. Right? If you say weak-minded, then a strong-minded queen shouldn't be affected by this magic. Because that magic's not going to be as strong as Rand's, because no one's is. Even if it is evil, even if it is the dark one, right? Or they're not affected. I mean, or they are affected, in which case it interferes with Moraine over here, right? There's inconsistencies in the structure here that I don't like. Okay, the end of this book is just a bunch of threads coming together. All the little things that got dropped just randomly. I'm like, like when they do a 3D movie and it's like, oh, you're like, oh, that's going to be a thing in a minute. All those things that are going to be a thing end up a thing at the end. He uses the firework to blow a hole in the fortress tier. Once the hole's blown up in, all the ale they had befriended or talked to along the way apparently just converged on this one spot. They're killing guards. They're killing dark fiends. Everyone's bloody and fighting. Rand shows up at around the same time. He grabs a sword and he's fighting the dark one. Everyone just ends up in the one spot all at once, and then it all works out. Everything was just too convenient, right? And I get that he's trying to make it like it's the wheels of fate pulling everyone in, but it doesn't feel like the wheels of fate, right? It feels janky, and it feels like he's just pulling crap out of the bag just to make it work. That's what it feels like. Waited a long time for the rating on this one. I think this one, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Which the other two were, I think, 3 out of 5. They're all 2 out of 5s. The difference with the other two is the side stuff. The mentionings of towns, of mythologies, of new races, new cultures. All of this sort of thing, I guess, gives me enough of a horizon that I don't care so much about what's happening in front of me. It doesn't make it better, but it keeps me interested. This one had the least amount of that. I don't see the horizon as well. And once I'm left with just these idiots, I'm just annoyed. Right? There's not as much built out with this one as the other ones. So you could skip it. I would skip it. You can skip, again, I'll give you a bit of a spoiler. You can skip all 3 of these. Go right to the 4th book. Just take my word for it. I haven't covered the 4th book yet. I haven't finished the 4th book yet. I'll finish it. Don't worry. We'll get to it. How long was that? Oh, man. I think it went too long. I railed too hard on this. Okay. Ad time. This one was a pain. The drudgery of a bad book. Oh, it hurts. It really was worse than the other ones. All right, people. Here are these pictures of my books. You can go read those. Will I say my books are better? Sure I will. Yes, they're better than the Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time can suck an egg. What do I think of the show? Better than the books? If I were recommending someone, do you want me to read book 1 or watch the shows? I'm like, watch the shows, bro. They do better. They do a better job. I'll save you some time. But they changed some stuff that happened. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The books ain't worried about it. I'm not worried about it. They don't have an internal consistency that they are living and dying by. And they want to, they just don't. All right. Thank you for all tuning in. These are buckets of fun. I'll see you next week.